Peace and power. Once again, this brother Psyche. I'm coming at you with another episode of Strategies of Manhood. If this is your first time here, then what you have just done is you've just clicked on to a channel that's going to give you the strategies, the knowledge, the science, and the wisdom behind how to elevate yourself to the highest level of manhood possible. This does not exclude women from viewing the channel, subscribing to the channel, viewing the content, because 9 times out of 10, if you're a woman, you have some kind of male in your life that you want to see elevated to his highest level of manhood. Whether that man is your man, your brother, your child, some form of fashion, you'll learn the knowledge and the information needed to help a man elevate to his highest level of manhood. Now, if you're a returning subscriber, like my boy Al Sterling, who's there for every video, who's thumbing up every video, who's commenting on all the comments, who's always there, I appreciate your support, bro. Stay blessed. But anyway, what we're going to do in this video today is I'm going to give you part 2 of the War of the Sexes. I did a video 2 weeks ago called the War of the Sexes Part 1, and I wanted to give you the War of the Sexes Part 2. In that first video, I explained a lot of the differences between men and women and where those differences create a lot of the conflict. Today, I'm going to get metaphysical. I'm going to get a little bit spiritual because I'm going to show where we complement each other. But I'm going to take it all the way deep into the essence, into the spiritual realm of things. So I hope y'all be patient with me. Stay tuned with me. If you've been with me and dealt with me before, you know I like to build. I don't want to just talk about how I feel about something. I really like to dig deep into the science and the metaphysical science of a thing to prove a point and make it all wise, right, and exact, and not just, oh, this is how I feel. So let's build on it for a minute. Now, if we're going to talk about the beginning or the essence of man and woman, I want to take us all the way back to the beginning. I'm going to use scripture with this. And keep in mind, this is not a religious channel. This is a philosophical channel. This is an idealistic channel. So and I like to deal with science of things. So don't think I'm gonna get straight religious on things. But even when I build from a spiritual point of view, I'm gonna build on it spiritually and scientifically sound. So let's go back to the book of Genesis in the Semitic people's creation story. In the creation story, we're told that God hovered over the void, over the dark, and God hovered over the waters. And it says that God spoke into the dark and said, let there be light. And then there was light. Let's stop right there. That's where I want to stop at, because I want to identify some major characters in this story. Now, in the beginning, we're told that God moved across the void. Now, moving is an activity. So God is performing an activity, moving. Then God performs another activity, speaking into the void. And then what God spoke into the void is what produced light. So God is operating in his masculine principle by being active and performing an activity. Then we have the void there with God. Now the void is performing a passive activity. While God is moving across the void is accepting the movement. While God is speaking into the void is accepting the speech. Now you got to understand what the speech is, and you got to understand the power of words. Even if we go to the book of John, and it said in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. So the Word is an active thing. The Word is the seed itself. Words have the power, like these words I'm using right now. Words have the power to infect the listener in a positive or even in a negative way. So the word itself is the beginning of all understanding and knowing, whether that word is the verbal word that you hear or the written word that you read. Words are what elevates your consciousness. So anyway, the void accepted the word, or the life-giving seed from the Creator, from God. So the void was God too, operating in God's feminine principle. You see where I'm going with that? I'm showing you that even in the beginning, the things that we call masculine and feminine energy or principles existed with each other, and they cooperated with each other to form our observable reality. Now, when you think masculine and feminine, you don't think male and female, because they're different. Man and woman are the physical manifestations of the masculine and feminine principles. Let me say that again. Man and woman are the physical manifestations of masculine and feminine principles in nature, because you can see it everywhere. Look at a plant. A plant has a masculine part and a feminine part. You can't say that it's a man or a woman, but it has a masculine part or a feminine part. You done heard the story of the birds and the bees. A bee is attracted to the smell of the pollen. It goes to the masculine part of the plant where it picks up the pollen on its legs while it's trying to feed from the plant. And then it moves to the feminine part of the plant where it drops off the pollen and pollinates the plant. And that's what allows the plant to start growing and basically having quote unquote children. This shows that principle, that masculine and feminine. Even in electricity, when you look at a plug socket, there's a negative part of the socket and a positive part of the socket. The positive part of the socket gives electricity. The negative part of the socket accepts. The negative part is the feminine part, while the positive part is the masculine part. This is what you're always looking at in nature. Without these two factions, there can be nothing in creation. As again, like I just talked about in the beginning of creation, when those masculine and feminine principles come together, we get observable reality. Inside the mind, when knowledge seeds the darkness of the mind, then we get a new ideal or a new concept. And when man impregnates a woman, then we get a child or we get life. So we see these principles constantly operating and building with one another. So what does the wise men use this? How does this become important to us? It becomes important because when we understand who we are and what we are on this basic, most intimate spiritual level, then we learn how to use this in our relationships and in our real life. You see, the ancient master teachers knew this. Yes, the ancient master teachers knew this without a shadow of a doubt. And that's why they created symbols in order to pass these concepts and these ideas down to the future generation, because they knew that if you taught a man and a woman to understand who and what they are from a universal perspective, then there will be more respect for each other. And then they had the greater ability to build and develop civilizations from that knowledge and from that understanding. Let me build on it and explain. Now, as I just said, the ancient wise master builders, they knew this science. They understood the science of mating. And they understood the importance of men and women understanding this science. But the way they used to teach in ancient times was they used to teach through symbols and stories. So they created and developed certain symbols that have actually survived ancient time. Thousands and thousands of years have been passed on to today. And a lot of times we see these symbols and don't know what they mean. But I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'm going to break down some of these symbols. I'm going to start with this one. This is called an Ankh. This is called the African symbol of life, the Egyptian symbol of life. It comes from ancient Egypt. The original name of the place was called Kemet. I'm not going to break down why and how the names changed. I do it in the old video. Look through all my videos and see if you can find it. But in this symbol we have, and I'm supposed to get basic. I ain't going to do a whole lot of intellectual masturbating. So I'm going to keep it simple and plain. The top part of this looped symbol represents the vagina, the female life principle. And the bottom part represents the penis, the masculine life principle. When these two principles come together, they produce something new, which is life. I just explained these concepts to you earlier, where the female principle represents his own thing, while the masculine principle represents his own thing. From the masculine principle is fire, while the feminine principle is water. The masculine principle is knowledge, while the feminine principle is wisdom. Fire is human beings' first light. It's the first place that we got light and heat from. So light is what allows us to see. Because without light, there's no sight. So that's why knowledge was represented as fire, while wisdom is represented as water. Because from water is where we get life. Without water, there's no life. A child is in his mother's womb, and when it's time for a child to be born, what's the first thing that happens? The mother's water breaks. The child is surrounded completely by water. The earth itself is 75% water. The human body is almost 75% water. The human brain is almost 75% water. So it gives you an understanding of how important it is that water is for life. So water ends up representing wisdom. So from a feminine point of view, it's water. From a masculine point of view, it's fire. From a masculine point of view, it's knowledge. From a feminine point of view, it's wisdom. Masculine point of view is logic and reason. From a feminine point of view, it's intuition or emotional knowing. That's why they say that women are more emotional than men. And that's big. That can be argued because I done met a whole lot of emotional men in my lifetime. But anyway, these are the principles. And once these principles come together, these principles are different. But these principles are not meant to be in conflict. These principles are meant to be in cooperation in order to complete and form the entire whole. Another symbol that the ancient master builders created to give us an understanding of how these two opposites work together is the symbol called the yin and the yang. Now I can't draw, but I did the best that I can with what I had, and I tried to draw you a yin and yang symbol. The yin and y'all done seen it before. I don't have to draw it for you, but you got an idea. The yin and yang, half the symbol is white with a black dot in the center, and the other half of the symbol is black with a white dot in the symbol. And the reason for that is that the black part is called the yin. The black part of the symbol is called the yin. It's the feminine part of the symbol. It's the passive part of the symbol. While the white part is called the yang, and it's the masculine part of the symbol, the active part of the symbol. And if you notice, both points got a small dot of the other in it, and just like man and woman, while male's predominant hormone is testosterone, men have degreeing levels of estrogen in them as well. And while females predominant hormone is estrogen, they have degreeing levels of testosterone in them as well. So that's what that symbol represents. That's why you have the black dot inside the white part of the symbol, and you have the white dot inside the black part of the symbol. Another symbol that represents the unity between masculine and feminine energy is called a 6-point star. Actually, the original name of that symbol is called the unity of Kemet, but I'm gonna give an explanation and breakdown in that as I continue. But we know it is the 6-point star. Many call it the Star of David. They consider it the Star of Israel, and it's on the nation of Israel's flag right now. Matter of fact, and again, I can't draw. I just want to give y'all a visual of the things that I'm talking about. This is the 6-point star. This 6-point star is really just two pyramids connected together. It's a right side up pyramid and an upside down pyramid connected together. The right side up pyramid represents masculine energy, and the upside down pyramid represents feminine energy. In ancient times, ancient Egypt was two different lands. They called it Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. And then when the great Pharaoh Norma united the lands and made one great dynasty. So he united Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. In Upper Egypt, the greatest intellectual and mental developments took place. That's where you had the greatest spiritual and intellectual concepts developed there in that part of the land. Mathematics and all these things. In Lower Egypt is where the greatest physical monuments was built. The pyramid, the Great Pyramid, the Herm or Ket, which many call the Sphinx, all the great monuments were created in Lower Egypt. So you had mental development and you had physical development. But when you united them both, you created a great civilization. And once you understand that, then you understand that Upper Egypt represented the masculine principle at work, because the masculine principle is the first ideal. And just as a man goes into a woman and impregnates her with the seed, and then she creates the physical manifestation of that, the same thing happened in Lower Kemet. Lower Egypt represented that physical part that the woman is supposed to birth into life. That's why they had the greatest monuments. Matter of fact, and people that have tuned into my channel before know that I love words. I love wordplay. Love words. So that's something to dig into. The word mater means mother. The word comes from the Latin word mater. Have you ever heard the term alma mater? And when a person refers to their college, the word alma mater literally means the great mother. That's what the word means. The root of the word material is mater, which again means mother. And therefore the word matter is mother. So matter, the physical representation of something, is that feminine principle at work, while that mental ideal is that masculine principle, that creative principle, as we said in the beginning of this video, that God spoke and said, let there be light, and then there was light. That speech doesn't have a physical representation to it until it's reflected off that feminine aspect, which then brings it in the light. And that's what a female is supposed to do for a man. A man is supposed to have a concept or an idea. He's supposed to breathe that life into her, and she's supposed to manifest that. My brother was talking, he and I were talking earlier today, and he was quoting something that he got from a brother. I can't remember the brother's name that he said, but he said that you give a woman food and she'll produce you a meal. You give her a house and she'll produce you a home. And this is how a man and a woman are supposed to operate and function together. But this is what this 6-point star represented. But I'm going to get a little bit deeper into this 6-point star and the metaphysics of it. A pyramid has 5 points. It has 4 points at its base. and it has 1 point at the top of the pyramid itself. So the 4 points at its base, the masculine part of the pyramid, the 4 points at its base is what grounds it to the earth. A man's 4 points that grounds him to the earth is his 2 arms and his 2 legs. But then he can excel to the heavens themselves through his 5th point, which is his head. And that's what a man must do. But once you excel to that 5th point, you must be able to manifest what you have thought of in your mind and bring it to life, bring it to fruition on this planet. Therefore, the upside down pyramid. A woman's 4 points is manifested in the heaven, and her 5th point is manifested in the earth. So she is the one that can bring that thing to life. And that's why men and women balance each other. And supposed to be able to create that cooperative union and work between one another. That's what that represents. Have you ever thought about how this one symbol that I'm explaining right now could have so many multifaceted uses? For instance, that symbol represents a major black gang in this country. So you ask yourself, how did it start to represent one group, and then it's supposed to represent the Jews from Israel? And then I'm telling you that it's the unity of Kemet, and it was a symbol formed back then because the symbol has so much deep knowledge and wisdom behind it that it's been passed on from generation to generation, and people have utilized the symbol to represent even the Rastafarians call it the symbol of Solomon. It was said that it was his ring in which he used to make his imprints with. So that ring or that symbol of Solomon is what was supposed to be passed down to his posterity. But that's what the 6-point star represents. That unity between masculine and feminine energy and the balance that's created once that takes place. Another symbol, and this is not a unity of masculine and feminine energy, but this symbol in itself is just feminine energy, but I feel the need to express it. The 5-point star. Now, ironically, as I just said, that the 6-point star is used to represent Judaism, where the 5-point star is used to represent Islam. In Islam, the 5-point star represents justice. And this is not on the subject, but I just like dealing with metaphors and symbols. But the 5-point star also became to represent the sheriff's badge, which came from the concept of the sharif. And the Mosque has the Sharif, whose job it is to maintain justice and order in the mosque. And that concept got brought to America as the sheriff, who then were the star to represent justice, the Islamic justice on his badge. And a lot of people see those badges and hear the word sheriff and don't know that that's what those things mean. Anyway, to get back to the point. But the 5-point star is a feminine symbol. It's a symbol that represented the goddess Isis, whose original name was Aset. That feminine symbol represents man at his base level. Man at his base level, he has 5 points, as I just said earlier when I explained the pyramid. A man has 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. And I'm not just talking about a male, but I'm talking about man as male and female, have 2 arms, two legs, and a head. So, and man has 5 senses, which gives him access to the outside world. Without those 5 senses, man will be trapped inside his own mind. His ability to smell, taste, touch, see, and feel is what allows him to have an understanding of the things around him. A man has 5 fingers on each hand, 5 toes on each foot. So 5 became the representation of man at his base and most basic level. Also, a reason why this 5 became important to them is because the planet Venus used to be called Isis, a set, before there was even a such thing, before they even had an understanding of the planet Venus or the word of the goddess Venus. They called it a set. Based off the ancient Kemetic goddess. And the reason they called it a Set, because she was seen as the mother of Haru, or the mother of the god. And that planet makes a full 5-point star shape in its movement across the constellations every 8 years. Matter of fact, the Greeks' Olympic Games was based off this. And that's why the Greeks' Olympic Games has 5 circles to represent those games. It represents those 5 points. Those 5 points represent the way man not only gains knowledge, but the way man is given justice, because he is given justice through his 5 senses. So these are all symbols that represented the unity and the balance between masculine and feminine energy. And it's important to understand those things and how we are supposed to be able to see our differences as complements to each other, and then move and operate in a creative form of things instead of having conflict. That conflict comes from our natural desire to be selfish and egotistical. You see, what has messed around and happened is that we have forgotten the science of mating. And by forgetting the science of mating, what we have done is we have allowed our instincts to take over in the way that we relate to each other. As I just said, and as I said in the previous video, human beings by nature are selfish. And that selfish nature is what drives us toward moving and operating in direct conflict with one another, because we're only considering what it is that we want, what it is that we need. Now, let me break this down from a biological point of view. The Creator God did not have confidence that you'd have enough sense to do what you needed to do to make sure that you survive. I'm going to give you that from another point of view. Have you ever noticed fruits, bananas, oranges, apples, pineapples? You ever notice how bright colored they are? How they all smell good? They have these bright red, yellow, and orange colors to get your attention. They to grab your visual attention. Then when you get close to them, they smell good. That makes you want to bust them up and eat them. Why? Because basically the majority of the vitamins that you're going to get that you need for your daily diet are going to come from fruits. And the Creator created these things in a way that they would attract you, because the Creator couldn't just trust that you would have enough intelligence to say, hey, I need vitamins. Bananas, apples, and oranges have the vitamins I need. Let me eat them. No. So you had to be attracted to it, so that you can go to it and do what you need to do, even though you didn't realize that you were doing what you needed to do. Same thing happens with why by nature you're selfish. You had to be made selfish by nature to make sure that you preserved yourself, to make sure you didn't do anything that would harm you or kill you off before you was able to do what it was that you were meant to do for the reason that you came into being on this planet Earth. Same thing with our attraction between the opposite sexes. When women see a man that they're attracted to, certain things in them turn on. The same thing that happened with a man when he see a woman that he's attracted to. That physical attraction is the first attraction to make sure that we're attracted to each other, that we mate, and we propagate the species. That was the whole purpose of it all. So when we understand that we have an innate, natural, native desire to follow our natural programming, when we understand that, then we understand where it comes from and how it's supposed to be operating within us. So that's why I always say that by nature we're selfish. And that's why we're selfish by our nature. Now let's look at what we've done and how we made mistakes with it. Example, I'm going to give you an example. A lot of the problems that happens in men and women relationships because we're operating on what's called unrealistic expectations. That's a psychological term. Let me show you how it affects you. Back in the day when the movie Heat first came out, it was one of my favorite movies nowadays. But back then it wasn't. Back then when I first saw the movie, I was disappointed because it had Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in it. And up until that point, every time I'd seen Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, there was mob figures and gangsters in every movie I've seen them in. So in my thinking, I expected these to be two major mob figures at war with each other. That's what I thought was going to happen in the movie. Well, what ended up happening in the movie is that Al Pacino was a cop. And that killed the movie for me. I wanted to see Al Pacino as Scarface. But he was a cop in the movie. And that killed the movie. And I said the movie was trash. Worst movie I ever seen. And then years later, I watched it again without those unrealistic expectations. See, I'm sitting up here not accepting that Al Pacino is an actor. And he has a range of skills and a range of roles that he is able to play. But I didn't accept that. I wanted to just see him as a gangster and a mob figure. But when I watched it later without those unrealistic expectations, I enjoyed the movie, loved the movie. Because I was able to then just look at the movie for what it was. And that's the mistake that we make in relationships. See, a lot of times women go into relationships with these TV ideas of what a man is supposed to be. They grow up watching Cinderella and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and they think that this overworked 12-hour day working man is supposed to come home and make her feel like Cinderella, when that's just unrealistic in the situation. She want to be pursued. She want to be chased. She want to be spoiled. She want to be catered to. She want to have all these things that TV tells her, and the most popular novels, 50 Shades or whatever, tells her that she's supposed to get to make her feel special. And when that man cannot do that, she's disappointed. He's not living up to her ideal of what a man is supposed to do. But in reality, it's not her ideal. It's the ideal of the popular culture. So these are her unrealistic expectations, which produce sadness. Same thing happened with a man. Same exact thing happened with a man. A man has a false idea that this overworked, underpaid woman who's trying to keep her household together, take care of her children, please her man, and take care of her own basic needs is supposed to come home and then turn out to be his rib. She's supposed to be his backbone. She's supposed to be his peace. These are the focus, these false ideals and concepts that we have and that we are placed on each other. And when she's unable to do it because she's so stressed out or so worked or so tired or feet is hurting, then we're disappointed with her because we have these unrealistic expectations. Just like my problem with the movie Heat. I wasn't able to see the movie for the cinematic genius that it was because I expected it to be something else. And when you do that, you're going to always be disappointed. So you have to remove those unrealistic expectations and look at the human being for who they are. And if they just don't fit where it is you're trying to go in your life, you have to separate yourself from that situation and move on and find the person that does fit what you're trying to go. Like I said in the previous video, when a man and a woman come together, it's supposed to be like the merging of companies. And if you merge with another company, you're supposed to merge with a company in your field or that is supplying some product that helps you gain an advantage in your field. There's no point in merging with another company that has absolutely nothing to do with your field. There's no point in it whatsoever. So that's one of the things that one of the issues that we have to overcome, those unrealistic expectations. Another thing, and I want to touch on this before I close this video, and I know I made it kind of long and I apologize, but why do people cheat on each other? Why do people cheat? Matter of fact, I'm not going to touch on that on this video because it's too long as it is. I touch on that on the next one because there is a scientific breakdown for why people cheat, and it's not about you. They're not cheating because they hate you. It's not about you. It goes, and if you've been paying attention to these videos, you probably got an understanding of where this supposed to go already. But anyway, I need you to subscribe to the channel. Share the videos and get friends to subscribe. Like the videos, comment on the video, give me your idea based on everything that I've been teaching through these last couple of videos of why you think people cheat. Peace and power. Y'all stay with me.